leaning into the psychopathy right-wing Chudville shit. Like she seems pretty level and like not that controversial. Like from everyone that I've seen
let's give her a
far.
chance to get controversial.
Okay, all right.
Passing through. Yet 90% of American kids are still under critical race theory, where if a little girl goes into kindergarten, if she's white, you're telling her she's bad. If she's brown or black, you're telling her she's never going to be good enough and she's always going to be a victim. You've got biological boys playing in girls' sports. It is the women's issue.
Jack.
Yeah, there it is.
Jack, look at how quickly that happened.
This is the U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
She was the governor of South Carolina.
Thank you, everyone. It is great to see you, and it's great to be around so many veterans and heroes, so I appreciate you taking the time to be here. You know, I was born and raised in a small rural town in South Carolina.
America, we're the Mujahideen. We're the Mujahideen. 2
stoplights, 2,500 people. You couldn't think about doing something wrong without somebody already telling you wrong. But we were the only Indian family in that small southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. And I remember when I would get teased on the playground, my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. It's amazing how.
Oh my God. Dude, this lady right here taking the picture, and watch the picture she ends up taking is so blurry.
And I remember when I would get teased on the playground, my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. It's amazing.
It's so bad.
How our country could use my mom's advice today. And even though they didn't know why we were there, my parents knew why we were there. Because there was never a day they didn't remind me, my brothers, and my sister how blessed we were to live in America. My mom started a business out of the living room of our home. 30 plus years later, it was a very successful business. I started doing the books for the business when I was 13. It wasn't until I got to college that I realized that was child labor. But we learned the value of $1, and we learned what it meant to stretch that dollar when times were.
Did she just say her mum committed child labor?
She's doing low-key, like, child labor is good dog whistling. She's like, I had to work for my family because we were poor Indian people. This is the thing, is minority child labor is the issue right now. These fucking slaughterhouses, man. So knowing that is in the press right now, and how there's these constant exposures in the labor department, right? And she's saying this kind of shit about child labor at the same time.
Bad timing, bad optics.
Tough, and we knew never to celebrate when the times were good because the bad times were going to happen again.
Really? I mean, how Indian are you with that one? That's
probably about as much as what's her face?
No. She's not Indian, not feather Indian.
Ah. Top Indian, not feather. Jesus Christ.
That's actually a Carlos Mencia joke, and that's why it's okay to steal it.
Did he steal it?
I mean, of course he stole it from somebody's friend. Oh shit, immigrant Sikh parents from Punjab, India. Sikhs are based. But I was just saying, because she was doing the good times, bad times thing. So, and that is like, that comes from the Hindu fascism.
I went on to Clemson, go Tigers, got a degree in accounting and graduated, met my husband my very first weekend there. We dated for 7 years. We've been married for 26. We have 2 children. And then I went on and worked in the corporate world. And I came back home to the family business. And one day I happened to be telling my mom how hard it was to make $1 and how easy it was for government to take it. And my mom said, quit complaining about it. Do something about it. I did not know you weren't supposed to run against a 30-year incumbent in a primary. Ignorance is bliss. Once I realized he was related to half the district, the only option was to win. And so we went around that district and we said, hey, there are too many lawyers in the state house. We think they need a really good accountant. The district took a chance.
He was related to like they were related to half the county because it's the South.
That's literally corruption, is appointing like family and stuff.
Yeah.
I won, and then we got to work in the state house. And in South Carolina, a lot of bills were passed by voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All
Hello.
opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
You know, my favorite thing about her talking about the South Carolina judicial sessions is the South Carolina, wherever the government is, had the Confederate flag atop it until like 2018 or something like that. Just before I got there, the Confederate flag was being flown in South Carolina. So kind of interesting. Just a bit of a fun fact. I'm also pretty sure that they have like constant KKK members picketing out the front of it. Kind of interesting.
I remember going home to my husband saying, if I can't even get legislative votes on the record, what am I doing here? And he said, then fight. So I went around the state and said, did you know of all the bills passed in the House, only 8% were on the record? Of all the bills passed in the Senate, only 1% was on the record. So if you didn't know how your House member voted 92% of the time, if you didn't know how your senator voted 99% of the time, how did you know who to vote for when you went to the polls? And the people of South Carolina were shocked. Now, to put it in perspective, my first year in office, I was chairman of the freshman class. My second year, I was majority whip. My third year, I was on a powerful business committee. My fourth year, I was subcommittee chair of banking. The year that I wouldn't put the bill away, I could take the well, no one would hear me speak. I could sponsor a bill, no one would co-sponsor. So I ran for governor. And I'm proud to say that now in South Carolina, one of the first bills we sign is anything debated on the floor of the House or the Senate requires a legislative vote on the record. And we took it a step further and we did it on every section of the budget.
That's
and
pretty
I
brave.
love music. So on the day of that bill signing, we blasted throughout the State House. Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot. When I became governor, we took a state that was really hurting. We had double-digit unemployment, a lot of families in need, and we got to work. By the time I left, we were building planes with Boeing. We were building more BMWs than any place in the world. We brought in Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, 5 international tire companies, and they were referring to us as the beast of the Southeast, which I still love. We moved 35,000 people from welfare to work. We put systems in place in our prisons that we now have the lowest recidivism rate in the country. We went.
So I went to her wiki and I just typed in subcommittee and I got 0 out of 0 results.
Interesting.
So I guess she did nothing because it's not even worth putting in her wiki.
From 11% unemployment down to 4% unemployment. And we put jobs in.
But this is exactly what I want to hear.
She's done.
She's not talking about nonsense. Well, I mean, DeSantis also does that, but she's not talking about nonsense here.
No, this is true.
She's not making up words right now.
Every county in the state. When I left, we were named the friendliest state in the country, the most patriotic state in the country, and the #2 state in the country people were moving to.
Oh my God, she did an accounting degree at Clemson.
And my response was, I don't even know what the United Nations does. I just know everybody hates it. But when you get the chance to serve your country, you jump. And when I got to the UN, I wanted countries to know what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but I wanted them to respect America. And we got to work. We pulled ourselves out of the Iran deal. We moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. We passed the largest set of sanctions against a country in a generation with North Korea. But the most important thing we did, we took the kick me sign off of our backs, and America was respected again at the UN. Now I'm running for president.
So she is a big supporter of Israel.
That's fine. I mean, I'm obviously not voting for any of these people anyway, but I'm just saying, like, they all are. They all are.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing about taking the kick, if anything, Donald Trump put a sign on her back.
Yes.
The whole thing, if we want to say, if anyone made the U.S. respected again, it's Joe Biden. Bro, how many members of NATO did Trump bring in? Oh, NATO almost got disbanded. He threw candy at Angela Merkel. Remember that?
That's pretty funny.
You know, he threw candy at another person.
He fucking pushed them out of the way to get to the front. It's so funny. They had no idea what they had to deal with him. It was hilarious.
Bro, if anyone was not respected, there's even that clip of Trudeau making fun of him to like Macron.
Imagine getting made fun of by Trudeau. And
I know, right?
I don't need to tell you how bad things are. You don't have to watch the news. You feel it when you go to the grocery store. You hear it when you hear your kids come back from school. Everybody's talking about how they're worse off now than they were a year ago. We are 31 trillion.
Hold up. Hold up. A year ago, people were still like in COVID lockdown.
Yeah, but you're always like Joe Biden's done wonders for unemployment, but it's coming out of COVID. Like,
No,
it's
but
no
I'm
different.
saying she's saying they're worse off this year than they were last year.
I think a year is probably a timeline we shouldn't be looking at. It should be
That's
like 3
crazy to
years.
say though, because there's no way people were
No.
fucking better off a year ago under fucking lockdowns and shit.
Although things were cheaper. That is fundamentally true.
Dollars in debt, almost $32 trillion in debt. We are having to borrow money just to make our interest payments.
Mm-hmm.
It would be easy for me to say Biden did that to us, but I have always spoken hard truths, and I'm going to do that with you today. Our Republicans did that to us too. You
Hell
go
yeah.
back and you look at that $2.2 trillion
Well
COVID
done.
stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability, that expanded welfare, that now leaves us with 90 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. Did Republicans try and make it right then? No. They doubled down and opened up earmarks
How
for the
does she not
first
have
time
to-
in 10
well,
years.
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that she did that.
I was just going to say, how come the Republican Jewish Coalition is backing DeSantis? I know they're establishment, and that's why they're just backing DeSantis, but like, this is a hardcore Zionist, right? Why wouldn't they be backing Nikki Haley? Like, honestly,
Ben Shapiro?
DeSantis was the wrong person to throw their fucking support behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty.
She
that's
would
a pretty
be
good
way
point.
better, but they're
Mm.
not going to fucking get behind a woman.
It's because it's also probably because she's not one of these sort of leaning into the psychopathy right wing Chudville shit. Like, she seems pretty level and like not that controversial. Like, from everyone that I've seen
Let's give
so
her a
far.
chance to get
Okay,
controversial.
all right.
Passing through 7,000 of them in December. Want to know how they spent your money? $7.5 million on horse racing in Arizona, $30 million on an honors college in Vermont, $10 million on a courthouse in Colorado. That's not how we want our money spent. All while 1 in 6 Americans can't pay their utility bill. 60% of Americans are in credit card debt. Don't ever let them tell you Republicans and Democrats don't agree on anything, because they love to waste our money. Social Security will go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare will go bankrupt in 5.
I'm sorry, but from a Republican perspective, why should I give a fuck about somebody else's credit card debt?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's their own fault, right? That's the idea.
You look at our education system, everybody wants to blame COVID for education. No, we had a problem with education before COVID. Pre-COVID, 70% of 8th graders in our country were not proficient in reading. 67% of 8th graders were not proficient in math. Last week, it came out that the numbers are even worse on history and civics. Then you go and you add 2 years of lockdowns, and our kids are in a world of hurt. Yet 90% of American kids are still under critical race theory, where if a little girl goes into kindergarten, if she's white, you're telling her she's bad. If she's brown or black, you're telling her she's never going to be good enough and she's always going to be a victim. You've got biological boys playing in girls' sports.
Here
It
we
is
go.
the women's issue.
Jack,
Yeah, there it is.
Jack, look at how quickly that happened.
There's standard talking points, though.
Of our time. Where is everybody? My daughter ran track in high school. I don't even know how I would have that conversation with her.
I will say this,
How do
though.
we let
pause
our
it.
girls think it's
I will say this, though. The point about the critical race theory, which is not what they're talking about, like the ideological education telling what she said, right? That if they're not white, they're never good enough, and if they're white,
Nobody's telling
they're
that to
too good.
kindergartners.
I know. It's not kindergartners, but it is sort of the undertone of it all, right?
I disagree. I think, honestly, on my education, I would say it was more about how they try to warp Martin Luther King about,
What do you mean?
like, and like basically the whole education was basically more about how like civil rights is over and everyone is equal. And like it was
Well, that's
very much
definitely
like
not true.
the education I got was an education that taught you like not to see race.
It's a
you know?
colorblind thing.
With the public standard of education, even in a state like New York, there is that undertone of it's way more nationalist undertone than anything, by far, because you're not. They're gonna tell you the things that I learned about George Washington, man, wasn't about his slaves.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely mentioned.
I think what more
And
what
like
they like.
culturally, we all know about Jefferson slaves.
Yeah, but like more what I'm talking about is it's not so much what's being taught, but like the fact that academic critical race theory that came out of the universities is Marxist undertones, which is class theory applied to race. Right? That's the whole idea behind it. While we're talking about DeSantis removed choice to do university courses in year 12
Yeah.
to get a boost, and that was the critical race theory classes, right?
No, it was Black history.
That's right. It was Black history. Sorry.
Critical race theory is so advanced.
Yeah, it's a very much an academic topic,
and it's also a theoretical framework for like legal scholar arguments.
It absolutely is, and like what they're saying is wrong on the fact that it's not critical race theory. What they're talking about is it's not being taught in schools. I would say that it's more coming from social media.
Yeah,
that sort of idea, right? It's a cultural thing more than it is an education thing, which is what I'm trying to get at. Getting this sort of education, if you want to call it that, through social media, right? The influencers or the infographic Instagram pages that just post garbage that people just absorb and retweet, and
TikTok.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing that I think that they should be focusing on more than education. I do agree, however, that education needs to be fixed in America because it hasn't changed for 130 years.
It's okay for biological boys to be in their locker rooms. Y'all know about Dylan Mulvaney?
Oh boy.
Bud Light?
Oh boy.
Make no mistake. That is a guy dressed up like a girl making fun of women. Women don't act like that. And you've got companies glorifying that. All while a third of our teenage girls last year seriously contemplated suicide. What are we doing to them? We're supposed to be raising strong girls, not those that are being made fun of. Then you look at crime. In our
Can you look up the suicide statistics of boys and men?
Bro.
Can we just do that?
Bro. The nerve to bring up the suicide after like saying that Dylan Mulvaney is not a woman.
Yeah. Considering that most of the right-wing Daily Wire, those sort of people are literally trying to get her to fucking commit. Like, but they don't think about this, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here from February. Nearly 1 in 3 high school girls report seriously committing.
Well,
considered suicide.
Can we talk about how this is probably because teenage girls are assholes?
No, she's saying it's because of biological boys in the locker room.
How often does this happen? Like, trans people are a tiny proportion of the population. This doesn't happen. And I always say this. I always ask people. I'm like, how many trans people do you know? How many of you
met? A third of girls want to kill themselves because of biological boys taking their positions in sports and in the locker room. Yeah.
Yeah.
like there's, I think it was this guy nodded along.
No, it's the guy on the
We're
bottom
supposed
right.
to be raising strong girls, not those that are being made fun of. Then you look at crime. In our country now, people are worried about their children riding their bikes down the street. They're worried they're going to get carjacked going to a restaurant.
Oh, come on. Don't actually. Come on, bro. We have more access to our kids than ever. Kids have cell phones. Their parents can fucking dial them in any second.
Illegal immigration situation? A massive national security threat. I'm the only candidate this cycle that's actually gone to the border. And I didn't pull a Kamala go and come back. I went 400 miles down that border. You're not ready for what I saw.
Indian violence.
Mounds of clothes.
What did you say?
Indian on Indian violence.
Where?
Kamala and her.
That's
shoes, paraphernalia, areas that are rape centers for women and girls that come across. When you wake up in the morning,
rape center makes it sound like that they go there and rape them. That can't be what it's called, right?
It would have to be a protection home for women and girls, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
When these ranchers get up in the morning, they get their coffee and they go see if anyone died trying to cross the fence. They pick up whatever kids were left behind and turn them over to Border Patrol. I met with multiple sheriffs. They said before 7 a.m. they round up illegal immigrants, whichever ones they get.
That was not something.
Turn them over to Border Patrol. Border Patrol.
It's like, do you need help? This is getting dark now. I have to cut all of this.
Patrol documents them and releases them until their court date years from now. And when I asked Border,
I rescind everything I said before.
About what?
She seems like
Oh, I mean, she started fine.
she's fine. It's just these are the typical
honestly, I
talking
still
points.
think she's better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Round up illegal immigrants,
Did
whichever
you
ones
see
they get,
fucking Donut Man?
turn them over to Border Patrol.
Donut
Border Patrol
Man.
documents them
Donut Man.
and releases them until their court date years from now. And when I ask Border Patrol,
Okay, well, let me just tell you, that video on our official channel has 786 views. We have
2 weeks. Jesus Christ.
We can beat those numbers. You know, that's bad.